Hi, boys and girls. Mrs. Heim here. I am going to read you a story with lots of animals in it. And the story takes place in the winter. So that's why I'm wearing my hat, my sweatshirt. This is a story with animals that can live in the snow. And right now, we are in the middle of winter and we have snow on our ground. This is a story about well, first of all, it's called The Mitten is the title. And it's a story about a boy who loses a mitten in the snow, and he can't find it, but the animals can. And these are all animals that live in the woods. Now, the reason he can't find it is because his mittens are white. So he's got two pair of white mittens that Grandma or Baba made him, and he loses one in the snow. Now, look what happens if you drop a white mitten in the snow. It's hard to see, isn't it? If I back up, it's really hard to see where the mitten is because it matches the color of the snow or becomes camouflage. So this story is adapted and illustrated by Jan Brett. This is Jan Brett right here. She's one of my favorite authors, I think, because I love her illustrations. They're so detailed and kind of realistic looking. The other reason I like Jan Brett books are because over here on the side, she usually has a little window of what's going to be happening next or what's coming up in the story. And in this one, the window looks like a mitten. So the animals that we're going to see in this story are animals that live in the woods, and I'm going to show you just some pictures of them so you can be looking for them in the story or during the story. So there's a badger, there's a hedgehog, there's a rabbit, an owl, a bear, a mouse, and a fox. Okay, so let's get started and read it. The Mitten by Jan Brett. Okay. Oh, look at that pretty winter scene. Do you see all the snow? It kind of looks like our yards and our area. Once there was a boy named Nicky. There he is. Nicky wanted mittens made from wool as white as the snow. So you can see there, it looks like his grandma, he calls her Baba, is going to knit them for him. At first, his grandmother Baba did not want to knit him white mittens, because she said if you drop one in the snow, you'll never find it. Do you ever lose mittens? I lose them all the time, and it's no fun when you're ready to wear your mittens and you can't find them. But Nicky wanted snow white mittens, and finally Baba made them for him. Okay. So after she made them, she said, when you come home, first I will look to see if you are safe and sound, but then I will look to see if you still have your mittens. So off Nicky went, and it didn't take him long until one of his mittens dropped in the snow and was left behind. So there it is right there. It's really hard to see, isn't it? But guess who crawls in first? A little mole. A mole, tired from tunneling along, discovered the mitten and burrowed inside. It was cozy and warm and just the right size, so he decided to stay. It's kind of hard to see, but he's right there. Okay. And who do you think is going to get in the mitten next? Who is that? Is that the rabbit? Let me find. I don't think I have a picture of the mole, but I do have a picture of the rabbit. There's the rabbit. A snow white rabbit came hopping by. There he is, right there. He stopped for a moment to admire the winter coat. It was then that he saw the mitten and he wanted to wiggle in. Feet first. The mole didn't think there was enough room for both of them, but when he saw the rabbit's big kickers, he moved over. So do you think there's going to be a lot of room in there for those animals? Looks like they're pretty squished in there, but it looks nice and warm and cozy. Who do you think is going to get in there next? That is the hedgehog. Let me show you a picture of the hedgehog. There he is. Okay, So I'm going to read these words over here, and you can look at the picture here. Next, a hedgehog came snuffling along. Having spent the day looking for food, he decided to move into the mitten. He wanted to warm himself. The mole and the rabbit were bumped and jostled, but not being ones to argue with someone with prickles, they made room. So they moved over for him because they just didn't want to get poked by his prickles. And look who's coming next. And I see Nicky in the background too. He's probably still looking for his mittens. But there's the owl. There's the pretty owl. Okay. Let's find out if the owl can fit in there. Oh my goodness, look how big he is. And look at those talons. As soon as the hedgehog disappeared into the mitten, a big owl, attracted by all the commotion, swooped down. When he decided to move in, the mole, the rabbit, and the hedgehog grumbled. But when they saw the owl's glinty talons, they quickly let him in. Those look kind of sharp. Okay, and you can see, first of all, you can see how the mitten is stretching. And there's the badger crawling out of his tree, it looks like. And over here, we can kind of see what Nicky's doing. It looks like he's still playing in the snow. Maybe he's still looking for his other mitten. And here's a picture of a badger. Badgers aren't very nice animals. They're kind of mean. So here comes the badger. Look, everyone's kind of shoved and stuffed inside that mitten. Up through the snow appeared a badger. He eyed the mitten and began to climb in. The mole, the rabbit, the hedgehog, and the owl were not pleased. There was no room left, but when they saw his diggers, his feet, they gave him the thumb so that he could fit in the thumb. What animal's coming next? Now, foxes are kind of big. They're kind of like a dog. Do you think a fox is going to be able to fit in that mitten? Let's find out. Look how big he is. It started snowing, but the animals were snug in the mitten. A waft of warm steam rose into the air, and a fox trotted by, stopped. He stopped to investigate. Just the sight of the cozy mitten made him feel drowsy. The fox poked his muzzle in. When the mole, the rabbit, the hedgehog, and the owl and the badger saw his shiny teeth, they gave him lots of room. Oh my goodness, so it's really getting stretched out. Look at that. Who is coming next? And if you've ever seen a bear before, bears are big. They're huge. Do you think that bear is going to fit in the mitten? Maybe only if it stretches. Oh my goodness, look how big that is now. Along came, I think the bear just already moved in. The bear lumbered by. He spied the mitten all plumped up, not being one to be left out in the cold. He began to nose his way in. The animals were packed in as tightly as could be, but what animal would argue with a bear? The mitten swelled and stretched. It was pulled and bulged to many times its size, but Baba's good knitting held fast. So it held tight. It didn't rip, but it sure stretched, didn't it? And there's a mouse coming next. A mouse. Isn't he cute? And mice are little, aren't they? So there's probably room for him in there. Along came the little meadow mouse, and you can see his tiny little footprints. He was no bigger than an acorn. He wriggled into the one space left and made herself comfortable on top of the great bear's nose. You can see it right there. I guess she's going to sit on top of the bear's nose. I'm not sure that's too smart. She might get eaten. And I think Nicky has noticed he is still missing his other mitten. The bear was tickled by the mouse's whiskers, and he gave an enormous chew sneeze, and the force of the sneeze shot the mitten up into the sky and scattered the animals in all directions. Look, they all popped out. The mitten is going flying through the air. So here's the mitten. Or here's Baba's other mitten. I'm sorry, it's Nikki's other mitten. Okay. Oh, and there it is, flying through the sky. And there's Nikki. He noticed it. On his way home, Nikki saw a white shape in the distance. It was his last mitten, silhouetted against the blue sky. And you can see the animals are just kind of plopped in the snow. I think they were kind of surprised. I think they'll probably get up and go back to their homes. As he ran to catch his snow white mitten, he saw Baba's face in the window down here. She's in there looking to make sure he's safe and sound. First, she looked to see if he was safe and sound, and then she saw that he still had his new mittens. But then she noticed, something peculiar about the mittens. What do you notice? Here, I'll hold up a pair of mittens to see if you've noticed what happened to the mittens. Uh-oh. What happened to the mitten that he lost? Yeah, it got stretched and stretched and stretched out because of all those animals that were in the mitten. Let's see if we can remember some of the animals that got all cozy inside the mitten. Let's see if you remember some of them. Think for a minute. What were some of those animals? They live in the woods. Some were big, some were small. One was a badger. These are not in order. I'm just holding up what I have in front of me. The badger got in the mitten. The hedgehog crawled inside the mitten. The rabbit crawled inside the mitten. There was a mouse. There was a mole, which I don't have a picture of. There was the great big bear. There was the owl and the fox. Now, do you remember which animal was last and kind of what happened and why they all ended up outside of the mitten? That's right, that mouse crawled up on the bear's nose and it tickled the bear's nose and he sneezed and they all went flying out of the mitten. I hope you enjoyed this story. I hope that you learned maybe a new animal's name. Maybe you can learn a little bit more about that animal. I want you to have a good day. Thanks for listening. Bye.